The next is Nolan from the Post.
To follow up on Joseph's question, there's not only this instance of the site in Washington Heights where apparently the website is only available to get an appointment, is only in English, and the staff apparently only speaks English. There have also been complaints about the lack of translated materials for the city-run vaccination sites too. Local community activists on the Lower East Side have told us the materials are only available properly translated in Spanish. There's no proper translation yet for Chinese and some of the other major languages here in the city. So, one, does the city have the authority to order private hospitals and other facilities to make their materials available in other languages? And two, why is the city behind the ball in getting these materials available in languages other than English and Spanish?
All right, let me test the question with Dr. Easterling and Dr. Long. Obviously, between their two agencies, a lot of test sites that have a long, and by the way, Department of Health and Hospitals have a long and really positive history of reaching out to all communities in all languages. So I want to ask them in a moment if what you're hearing, Nolan, is accurate, and if it needs to be addressed, and it obviously does need to be addressed, we should do it forcefully, and we should ensure that every institution does the same. The Washington Heights site, if it's true that the appointments are not available in Spanish, that's mind-boggling to me. And Dr. Easterling will follow up again with Columbia Presbyterian and the state to get that resolved. But we want to make information available in every language. Our Vaccine Command Center has among its many responsibilities and missions to make sure that vaccine distribution is equitable and effective on the ground and decentralized and grassroots, and that means using multiple languages. So, Dr. Easterling, Dr. Long, what can you tell us?
Yep, absolutely correct, Mr. Mayor. So we are making sure that we have staff on site to receive individuals and be able to respond to them in their languages, certainly English and Spanish. Our materials are also being printed in English and Spanish. And so we can certainly follow up if there are ways that we need to address and we need to fill those gaps, we can certainly do that. Also on our website, our frequently asked questions can be translated as well in the top 13 languages. So this is something that we certainly strive to do to make sure that we are being responsive to our diverse community.
Thank you, Dr. Long.
Yeah, what I would add to that, and I completely agree with everything Dr. Easterling said, is that we have our language line that we use every single day in New York City Health and Hospitals that we use for the phone line that you call in, Vax for NYC, to be interpreted to any language. And also staff on each of our sites have access to that same language line. That's the same language line that we use, by the way, in my personal primary care practice in Morrisania in the Bronx. I have one patient who I always think about when I think about the language line. She speaks a rare African dialect, and in her life, not many people can really communicate with her because it's not a commonly spoken dialect. But every time she sees me, she smiles because she knows that the language line in my clinic will enable me to effectively communicate with her. Every person that comes to one of our sites or that calls the phone line has that same access. Elmhurst Hospital is the most diverse hospital in the entire world. That's exactly what they use there too. So New Yorkers coming in for vaccines, calling us, or there in person, get the same quality care that we are world experts in New York City Health and Hospitals.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Nolan.
All right, so just to clarify, because there are two separate health systems in the city. You have the public health system and you have the private health system. Does the city have the authority to order private health systems to provide materials in multiple common languages in the city? Secondly, in terms of the public health system, we're told that completing the applications to get appointments, all the information you have to provide about your healthcare history, your insurance, whether or not you actually tick the boxes and you are eligible, that those applications are only available in English and Spanish. And the best that the city's doing right now for other common languages in the city, like French, French Creole, Chinese, Hebrew, Russian, etc., is a Google Translate function that doesn't carry over to many of the application pieces. So when will when will all the information you have to submit, when will those forms be available for the public health system in languages other than English and Spanish?
Very good question, Nolan. I really do appreciate it because we got to get this right, and it's a huge, sprawling effort, but we got to make sure it is inclusive as possible. So I'm going to open this up to whichever doctor, and we have Dr. Varma as well, whoever wants to start on the authority to require private health providers to provide information in other languages. I don't know, and we may have to check counsel on that one, but does any of the three doctors know if that can be a direct order, or is that something we have to do through collaboration? It sounds like none of them are sure. We're going to come back.
No, we will have to do through collaboration.
Go ahead.
Yes, we've already been in touch with Presbyterian, so we will follow up.
Okay. We thank you, Nolan, because that's one, if we don't have the ability to order it, we have to really very aggressively make sure, and Torian, if you'll take the lead on this, that we're checking with every hospital to make sure they're doing it. If they need some of our help doing it, we can do it. On the question of the forms, the sign-ups, the applications for our appointments, they really do need to be in multiple languages as this grows out. So again, any of the doctors have an update on that, how we're going to move beyond English and Spanish? And if not, we'll get back to Nolan with a more specific timeline. Does any one of you have an update?
No, sir, no specific update at this time. We will follow up with Nolan to make sure that he also has an update.
Thank you.
I would just Ted, if I may, I would just add, Nolan, that this is one of the reasons why we set up the language line within our phone system, is so that if you have trouble completing the forms, you have a place you can go, you can call, where somebody can help you to register for your appointment. And again, when you call that line, you have access to many, many different languages and dialects. And it's the same thing I use to treat my patients in the Bronx.
No, I appreciate that, and that is not a minor matter, Ted. That's a great service. I know it's been incredibly helpful. Your example of the woman who's your patient is a great one. But Nolan's raising an important point. I'll say, you got to give credit where credit is due. When the New York Post is right, they're right. And this one, he's right. The actual forms to sign up for the appointments need to be in languages other than just English and Spanish if we're really going to maximize access. So we will get to work on fixing that. Go ahead.